I found myself a little bit pissed off the other day, and I didn't want to make a video about it because, I don't like to give assent to emotion through speech all that often. But I was talking to this dude, and he was saying about how he wants to be successful. And he was talking about, how he really wants to make it and he really wants to win. It's a young guy, 20 years old. I don't know him that well, to be honest, but, we kind of came up in a conversation when I was meeting a friend of a friend. And, I said to him, he knew who I was, and he'd seen the YouTube channel. And so he was like asking me questions about like how to do it and what I was, going to do and stuff like that. And I said to him, I was like, so what do you want? He's like, I want to make 10K a month, and I want to be financially free, and I want to build an agency, and I want to do this, I want to do that. And I said, oh, okay. I said, like, cool. Like, how long have you wanted to do that for? And he was like, oh, I've been wanting to do that now for like a good year. I was like, oh, okay, year. So I said, and then I point blank asked him, I was like, so how much work have you done on the last year on this thing? He was like, well, I'm just at uni and I'm going to wait till I finish my degree. And, I was like, oh, okay. So like, what have you been doing in your spare time? And he was like, well, I have this, I play video games, and I'm working on like this professional video game team thing, but it's unpaid and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But like, I don't want to let them down. And I was like, okay, so like, how much work have you done on this business idea? Like, how? He was like, well, nothing really. And, I decided not to judge him, and I kind of let it go. And we had a conversation, and, but it kind of struck me. I was like, how some people are just so fucking stupid. And I'm not trying to sit on a high horse pedestal here and call this guy an idiot or anything like that, because truly he's not. He's just kind of lost and a little bit confused, right? But I'm going to deliver you a little harsh message today, like kind of almost like a big brother advice. How can you sit there and say that you want to be successful and say that you want to improve your life and take more responsibility and look after your family and do good things, but then not do them? Now, as someone who used to talk about all the things he wanted to do and actually went and did them, I find it kind of repulsive that people do that, because everyone talks this big game about how they want to win and how they want to, build something. But then when it comes to actually doing it, they just pussy out. And it's such a shame, because, I see it happen all the time with loads of young guys. And, what happens is they end up very bitter and they end up very resentful towards the world. And all these guys that pussy out have a fucking excuse. Oh, I'm at uni. Or, oh, I'm just, I'm going to do this first and then I'll do the business after. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a story. I was absolutely fucking desperate to succeed when I was 18 years old. Desperate. I was completely, utterly, desperate to win. And what I did for a year is I did an apprenticeship, because my mum wanted me to get a job, because I dropped out of uni and I was not in a very good way. My previous business ideas had failed. I was in a bad way. So I started this apprenticeship, which was hard work. I had to wake up at 7:30 to drive to the office, which was quite a far drive, and then I would have to work doing cold calls for this sales apprenticeship all day, and and then I'd have to come home and do the same thing again. And it was a full-time job, and I was 18, and when you're 18 you don't like full-time jobs, and you end up not liking these things. But I was so desperate to be successful, so what I did, I was like, I need to start my own business whilst doing this apprenticeship. And I started my day at 5 a.m. So I'd wake up at 5, I'd go to the gym, so I'd get a workout in. Then after the gym, I'd shower at the gym, and I'd go straight to my office. And I'd arrive at the office 2 hours early, and I would cold call for my own business for 2 hours. Then I would start my apprenticeship job, cold call for another 3 or 4 hours. Then I'd have lunch. On my lunch, I'd drive to a lay-by, eat a meal deal, if you know, as fast as I could, make cold calls for an hour, come back, work from 2 till 5, making more cold calls for my apprenticeship. Then I'd go home, I'd arrive home at 6:30. Guess what I did until about 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m.? I'd make more cold calls. I did that every single day. I worked 14, 15 hours a day. At 18 years old, I sacrificed my social life. I sacrificed my video game habits. I sacrificed everything. My relationships, my health, everything I gave up. By the end of the apprenticeship, I had a marketing agency from my cold calls and from the sales calls I'd done, making about £5,000 to £6,000 a month, which I then went on to scale to 100k a month a year or two so after. And the only reason that was possible, and the only reason I actually broke free and escaped the matrix, is truly because I sacrificed everything. Literally everything. I deleted all my social media. I got rid of all my junk food. I got rid of my video games. I smashed up my gaming PC. I got rid of my Xbox. I got rid of my social life. I stopped dating. I stopped talking to girls. I deleted dating apps. Everything. I got rid of holidays. I got rid of everything. And all I did for a year, for basically the entire day, was make sales calls or make cold calls, which by the way is fucking painful, and go to sleep. And it was unhealthy. And I burned myself out, and I sacrificed my mental health. I sacrificed my physical health, but it was worth it. And guys nowadays, these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids can't fucking do it. You know, and I know a lot of people who I would talk to during this little era of my life, during this year or two of pure pain. And, you know, one of the guys was starting an agency at the same time as me. And he's now, he's doing okay. I think he's making like all right money as a high ticket closer, but not like, he's not like a business person, right? And, you know, and this guy, we would talk every day about how we were going to start these agencies and stuff. And, you know, he messaged me the other day and he was like, you know, like, oh man, like, you know, I seen your YouTube and you're doing so well, and like, congrats on 8 figures. And I was like, oh, sick, man. Like, what are you up to these days? He's like, oh, well, you know, like I'm in, like, I decided the business thing wasn't for me. And like, I'm like in Vietnam now, just like closing on this offer. And I was like, cool, no worries, man. Like, no judgment, no stress. But I remember when, you know, when I was 18, when I was 19 doing this apprenticeship, I talked to that guy every day and he would say, I'm going to do it, bro. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Or, yeah, I'm going to get rid of my social media soon. And he could see me doing all these things. He could, you know, we weren't that close to be fair, but, you know, I would update him. Like, I'd send like Snapchats of me in my like car. To be fair, I deleted Snapchat pretty soon after that. But like, I would send him like WhatsApp messages of me like making cold calls, closing my first client. He was like, yeah, bro, like I'm with you, man. Like, I'm here. Like, I'm holding you accountable. Like, I'm going to, and don't get me wrong, I got a lot of gratitude for this guy because he, you know, he was one of the only friends I had during this time. But he would always make excuses. There was always an excuse. And the excuse was always around what he wasn't willing to sacrifice, what he wasn't willing to give up. The true measure, the truest, purest, most objective measure of whether or not someone will actually succeed and actually break through is what they're willing to sacrifice. Now, what I'm about to tell you, what I'm about to say is controversial, delicate, and a lot of people will disagree. You need to be willing to give up everything: your health, your mental health, your relationships, and yourself. These are things you have to go to a horrific, disgusting extreme for a year or two if you really, really, really want to do it. The only people that I know a lot of successful entrepreneurs. I know millionaires, I know multimillionaires, I know decamillionaires, I know centimillionaires, and I know a couple of billionaires. All of them, without exception, all of them started their business, and the way they started was deemed unhealthy. You know, society has lied to us and told us that like health is important. And don't get me wrong, I now, as an entrepreneur, I prioritize my health, and I endeavor to sleep properly, eat properly, manage my relationships, have a life outside of work and all these things. But that first year, that first like make or break year, you have to become a fucking animal, man. You have to become this dark beast, this thing that just retreats into the shadows and just puts itself through so much suffering. Like, it's the only way. Like, you show me any person that's achieved anything of significant note and show me their first couple of years of taking it seriously. Show me that chapter of the athlete starting to train, of the musician starting to produce, of the director starting to, you know, be mentored or whatever, or of the entrepreneur starting to build. It's fucking horrible. And most people are just too weak to do it. And that's the truth. And that's not, again, I'm not trying to sit on some high horse pedestal saying, oh, look at me, I'm all big and strong and I can put up with the suffering. No, because the only reason that I did that is because work to me was less painful than this year, this 1 to 2 year stint. It was, the idea of work was less painful than the idea of failure. And what people think, and what a lot of young guys think, is that in order for you to be motivated or inspired, or in order for you to want to work, you think you have to be motivated by some pure force. You think it's about what you want. It's about being free, bro. It's about the Lamborghinis. It's about the girls. It's about the being able to make a Dubai lifestyle vlog, or, you know, giving Mike Thurston a hug. Shout out to Mike. People, he's going to laugh at that. But people think that, like, you know, you need to be motivated by the pure and the good. Wrong. The motivation for you to become successful, that endless source of willpower and discipline, comes from the dark side. It comes from the parts of you that you don't want to talk about. It comes from you being bullied. It comes from you being neglected. It comes from you being abused. It comes from you getting things, not having things that you needed. It comes from you feeling insecure. It comes from you feeling weak. It comes from you feeling low status. It comes from you feeling controlled or restrained. It comes from all these little, it comes from your ego, your grandiosity, your narcissism, all these traits, your Machiavellianness, your psychoticness, anything that you've got that you hide, that you push away and push down. Those are the things that are going to motivate you to be successful. Because if you were motivated by the good, you know, then you'd be working. Like, you know what you want and you know what you want to achieve, so why the fuck are you not doing it? Why are you sat here watching a video on how to do the work? Why have you been, you know, locked in with some guy who's actually done what you want to do for 11 minutes when you should actually just be tapping away on a keyboard and doing some work? Why are you here? Like, why aren't you working? Well, it's because Nietzsche got this nail on the head. Nietzsche said that he who has a why can bear almost any how. Now, the how of the work is really painful and it really sucks and it hurts and it's ugly and it's nasty. But if you have a strong enough why, then you'll be fine. And a lot of young guys, they just don't have a why, because they're told by society, by teachers, by parents, by peers, that it's okay to be anxious and it's okay to be depressed and just take this pill, or, you know, just do this, or, you know, just talk about it, whatever. Like, I found, this is my experience, right? I have found that the greatest, most therapeutic way to deal with trauma, difficulty, struggle, any sort of badness that's happened in your life is through work. Instead of taking pills or doing therapy or doing anything else to have an outlet, I took it all and I just put it into work. And the beautiful thing about that is it's endless. Like, these wounds that you've got, these little bits of psychological damage that have been inflicted on you, these things that keep you up at night, or, you know, when you randomly get anxious, or you randomly get angry, or randomly get sad, or, you know, any of these little weird emotions that just crop up. As soon as they crop up, channel it into work. I've been doing this for 10 years. You know, I was bullied real bad in school. I was a proper little nerd man in school. I was like a proper little geeky, bullied. I had no friends. I'd eat like lunch by myself in like the cafeteria. I'd hang out by the teacher's lounge because I knew that I couldn't be bullied there. Like, you know, even talking about it now, like it wasn't a good time to be me. I was neglected, no friends, bullied. Obviously, with all that comes no girls. And I just like kind of hid in my computer, my gaming PC, playing like Minecraft or League of Legends or whatever. And, you know, that was my life for a good few years. Eventually, I kind of gently socialized into like this weird crowd and became weird. And it wasn't really until college that, you know, I kind of stepped out of that. But after that period, I had this sadness, this like anxiety, this sort of like thing. And what I would do is I would take that emotion and I'd put it into video games. And any time that I felt sad, or any time that I felt angry, anytime that I felt unhappy, or any time these emotions came up, all these wounds kind of reopened, you know, I would just open up League of Legends, or I'd open up Minecraft, or I'd open up RuneScape, or whatever game I was playing at the time. And then the pain would go away. What I quickly learned is, if you want to get rich quick, and if you want to make a ton of money as fast as humanly possible with very little to low failure rate, what you do is you bypass the urge to go to the video games and you go to work. So what happened is I realized this. I was like, because I was pretty aware when I was younger. I was pretty aware young man. Like, I'd read a lot. I did lots of learning and stuff. And I was like, what happens if instead of taking this to my computer, I take it to a business? And so what I did is, the way that I built my company was just through trauma dumping. Every time, and then I had a lot of this anger, right? A lot of this, like, you know, frustration that was built up from my teenage years. And, you know, I just put it all into work. Like, angry, sad, unhappy, lonely, miserable, all of it went into my work. And it's kind of like an energy transfer. So, like, if you've ever exercised hard and you've ever trained hard before, whether that's with boxing, running, or anything like that, you'll get to a point in the workout where you kind of hit this like wall and you meet this like childish version of yourself that's like, you know, traumatized almost, and you can work yourself out so hard to the point where you almost need to cry, and you kind of, it's like you're an adult now and you're meeting this childish part of you that just doesn't, that's just in pain. It's like woo woo wah wah, woe is me, trying to like get you out of this pain, right? Which is kind of what happens when you're a kid. And you can push through it and you can push past it. And when you do that, you find this like beautiful Zen-like state. And I've done this for a while now, with like exercise and all sorts of different exercises, right? But you can do that with work, and you can take yourself to a point of extreme where most people would deem it unhealthy, but this is how you get the insane results. Because you can just, like, work becomes a friend. And this, why, by the way, let me explain something very clearly to you here. What I'm describing is a work addiction, and it is not traditionally or holistically healthy or good for you. But if you resonate with the message, and if right now you're turning to alcohol or drugs or bad friends or dating and women or video games or gambling or anything, and fighting or anything like that, like as in like bad fighting on the streets, right? If you're turning to these things, these are vices, and these are ways for you to numb yourself and strip yourself of the pain and suffering of your traumas and what you've done, right? If you can learn to temporarily resist the impulse to go to those things and instead go to work and start seeing work as your outlet and work as your vice, that's how you make a ton of money. And that's how you go ahead and build an insane business very fast. Because then suddenly, like, what work actually becomes, it becomes the video game. Work becomes as easy as partying. Work becomes as easy as drinking. It becomes as easy as doing these things that feel very pleasurable to you, that alleviate this psychological suffering. Sure, work's never going to be as easy or as fun as playing a video game, but you get the same level of psychological satisfaction when you do it, when you start seeing work in this way. Most people see work as this like evil thing they don't want to do. I see it as like a friend that comforts me when I'm not feeling very good. And there's going to be times in your life where you're not going to be having emotion present and you're not going to have these things, but you're still going to work, you know? But the point I'm making here, see work as an outlet. And if you do that, and if you can learn to properly do that, and you can learn to cope with your bullshit through work, you'll make a lot of fucking money. And it will happen quick. Because you'll become obsessed, and it will be unhealthy, and you will sacrifice a lot, and you will lose friends, and you will maybe temporarily lose parts of yourself and your mind, but you will pull out of that the other side. And, you know, it's still important to keep a balance and not like fuck yourself up really bad and make yourself sick and make yourself ill. And we don't want to shorten your lifespan here, right? But the point I'm making is you're going to probably do that anyway. So like if you've got all this unchecked bullshit and it's going into drinking or alcohol abuse or smoking or drugs or gambling or partying, like those things are just as bad for you and they're just as unhealthy. This energy, this trauma, this negative sort of thing you've got in you, it needs to be channeled somewhere. So if you try and get rid of all of the bad habits but don't try and replace them with something else, then you're kind of screwed because it has to go somewhere. Like the river has to flow, right? And so imagine like in life, this is a weird metaphor, but imagine you've got this river, this never-ending flow of pain, right, which is your past or what you've been through. Like, imagine that you have the ability to direct the river, okay? And so, you know, we've got like, you can determine which lake it flows into, right? So we've got like a lake of video games. We've got a lake of, you know, hedonism. We've got a lake of partying. We've got a lake of alcohol. We've got a lake of gambling. We've got a lake of drugs, a lake of smoking. And what you want to do is you want to dam off. Like imagine you're building dams, psychological dams, so the water cannot go into any of these lakes, and these lakes will drain out eventually. So eventually you'll stop smoking, you'll stop gaming, you'll stop gambling, you'll stop drinking, you'll stop hanging out with these people, you'll stop partying. If you get rid of them and you dam them off, what you want to do is imagine you've got these two other things over here. So you've got working out and you've got work. Right? So like working out as in like exercising and, you know, putting yourself through physical pain for the sake of, you know, tissue regrowth and building muscle or whatever. So you've got that, then you've also got the work. And if you can learn to channel this river, dam off every other outlet and take all that pain to the gym and take it to the office, that's how you get mental results quick. Because suddenly like this part of you, like the only way it can get comfort or satisfaction is in your office, and then suddenly you're in your office all the time, and then you're like, wait, hang on a minute, I'm actually building things here. And this is how you care about the business. And, you know, a lot of young guys, they're like, oh, but I don't have any trauma, I don't have anything bad that happened to me. And that might be true, but you still care, And you still have all these emotions, and you still have, you're a young guy, right? You still feel fundamentally like the world has inflicted itself on you. You still got emotions and stuff, and not all of you will resonate with this message. But most people have been through some shit. Just like you want to become successful. There's a reason for that. Do you know how fucking weird and abnormal it is to want to be a millionaire? Okay, let me explain. Everyone wants to be a millionaire, right? Everyone wants to make money and have a lot of money, but there's very few people actually really want to do it. There's a difference between wanting it and needing it. And the people that need it are the people that actually win and get results. If you don't need to be successful, then you won't do it. And this is the point I was trying to communicate earlier with the kid who I was talking to at the start of the video, 20 years old. He wants to build a successful business, but he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to get rid of the video games. He doesn't it's different. It's hard to explain. Like when you need something, it's like you will literally climb any mountain. You will put yourself through any amount of hell because it's a need. It's not a want. A want is like, oh, I'd love to be rich. A need is, I need to be rich. And the difference between wanting and needing something is there's a massive chasm of psychology between these things. It's like, everyone wants to like be healthy. Everyone's like, oh, I'd love to be skinny and healthy, but we look at like anorexia in like women, or men can have anorexia to be fair as well, but like, some girls feel like they want to be skinny, other girls feel they need to be skinny. And that's like anorexia or bulimia or other eating disorders, right? Where it's kind of like they will starve themselves quite literally, in the same way that like if you're a man and you need to be successful, like you'll do anything you can, everything, you'll put yourself through so much suffering because you need it. And the only way that you can get that need is when you strip yourself. And I'm not talking about the eating disorders thing anymore, because that is way out of my circle of competence. I don't know a fucking first thing about those eating disorders. But for men and success, the way that you build the need, the way that you create and craft this thing that just feeds you and just gives you so much energy, is by removing all other outlets, i.e. sacrifice. So if you remove the video gaming, like the reason you play video games, or the reason you watch series, or the reason the reason you're watching YouTube or short form content is you're getting things that you need from these things. But what you want to do is you want to remove it all, get rid of it all. It's going to suck. But the reason you play video games, maybe you need a sense of achievement, you need a sense of progress, you need a sense of community. But you can get that from work if you work hard enough, right? And so cut all these needs off, channel them all into work, and just start working really fucking hard. And this is what I did, and it worked for me. And it's kind of like this like mindset judo sort of thing that you can look at. And I don't regret it one bit. Has it been healthy? No. Has it been, consistent and stable? No. Is it been like, have there been ups and downs and, ups and downs and big like lefts and rights and norths and souths? Like sometimes you're all over the place, and this isn't like a foolproof way to do it, but it is a way to do it. And, I started this video without any real intention of where it was going to go, but we ended up here, and I think it's a pretty good place to end. So yeah, if you're a young man and you really want it real bad, like stop wanting it, start needing it. And the measurement of whether you actually need it or not is if you're going to get rid of stuff. And if you're not willing to do that, then sorry, mate, you're not going to make it. I don't know what I'm going to tell you. If you're not willing to throw away your PC and get rid of those friends and get rid of those girls and get rid of those drugs and get rid of that shit food and get rid of that habit and this bad thing, if you're not willing to get rid of those things, then you will not be successful. It is as simple as that. I don't know what else to tell you. Like if you're not willing to sacrifice things for your goal, then your goal becomes a sacrifice. And you've got to realize that every time you choose one of those things over your goal, then you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So yeah, I would get to sacrificing as much as you can. And if you watch this video and you think, nah, I don't need to do that, then you don't need to be successful. And you won't be successful. And it's as simple as that. If you think you don't need to sacrifice it, then you don't need to actually win. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you can go and you can enjoy your normal life and enjoy your 9 to 5 and enjoy climbing the corporate ladder. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if I say that to you and you feel like fundamentally you don't want that, then you need to do some real deep psychological reflection here, because you're at a crossroads in a conflict where you want two things. Because when you're not willing to sacrifice things, if you're not willing to give things up, then you're unconsciously saying to yourself that that thing is more important than the future you want to achieve, i.e. the present pleasure of what you experience in the video games or the drinking, whatever, is more important to you psychologically than the future pleasure of winning. And if that's the case, that's fine. Like that's fine. Like a lot of people, that is the case. They just want to live in the moment. They want to live in the day, and they want to just have a bit of a happy time and just not struggle too much and just be okay. And that's what they want, right? Fine. But if you're watching this, and if I say to you, okay, well, you know, if you don't, just go and get a 9 to 5, then just go and, you know, work in middle management and, you know, make some decent money and get a mortgage and settle down and have a few kids and crack on. Like, but when I say that, part of you is like, oh, I don't want that. But when I tell you to sacrifice things, part of you is like, oh, I don't want that. You need to fucking decide, mate. You need to decide, because this is going to rip you in half as you get older. You need to decide now. You need to decide soon. What's it going to be? And I don't mean that in like a fucking cliche matrix, red pill, blue pill way. None of that bullshit. I'm just saying, like, you've got to make a decision here. You're at crossroads. You have been for a while. Decide. Who are you going to be? How are you going to do it? What are you actually going to do? So yeah, see you later.